I wanted to talk to you about my approach to herbalism and meditation and peace and a different idea about what our original sin is. So I hope you'll hear the whole thing so that you can hear about that, because I think it might be good for everybody out there who's heard the other version. So I got started when I was a kid. I learned how to meditate. My parents were really into meditation, and it didn't really work at the time. I was too young, or it wasn't presented in a way that was really helpful for me. But then later, when I was, I believe, 19, I met my guru, Shri Anandi Ma, and she taught me how to meditate, and I had a really good experience that day. And I listened to what she said, and I really felt okay about it. Like, they were just teaching this practice of meditation, and it wasn't about religion or anything like that. And the goal really was ultimately to help other people. But first, you have to know yourself. So the way that I got to know plants was that I started doing plant meditations. And a lot of people do plant meditations in groups or by themselves. But I happened to learn from Kloos in Portland, Oregon. So I'm grateful for that. But the thing why I felt like I think a lot of people are able to get a lot out of plant meditations, and you should definitely do it. But one thing that really helps is if you kind of know what your interior baseline is, both in your mind, in your emotions, in your body, the whole thing. And one way that you can develop that is through meditation. So I've been doing meditation since I got initiated by my guru, so that's quite a while now. At least 20 years. And not to be bashful about my age or anything, but it's really taught me how to see myself a little bit more, and to see my thought patterns. Because a lot of times with the plant meditations, what I would do is with the group, and now I do it by myself or with a few friends, is I will take a plant, I might smoke it, or I might, if I'm making a smoking blend, I'd smoke it. Or I might drink it as a tea, or take it as a tincture, or something, even just sit with it if I'm not sure if it's something I want in my body. And then I will close my eyes and meditate. And I would give that like 5, 10, 15 minutes at least. And in the groups that we did originally when I first learned, we often didn't know what the herb was. And you can, and that was done so that you could be more objective about it. But I feel like the practice of meditation teaches you objectivity, and there are some people's bodies that don't do well with certain herbs, so it is nice to know what you're taking, but maybe not read up about it. I don't know. You can find something that works best for you and where you're at with your body and your practices, and you can change your decision at any time. You can do a bunch of plant meditations without knowing, and then you could decide to do them with knowing, and whatever. It's a great thing about life. You can just change whenever you want to. So yeah, I did these plant meditations, and what would happen is a lot of times my thoughts would change. Like a song would come into my head that had a message from that plant, and some plants were kind of funny. They seemed like they had a sense of humor. They seemed very verbal compared to animals or minerals like crystals and stuff, gemstones. I talk more about this whole thing in my zine, How to Make Friends with Plants, Animals, and Minerals. So if you like hearing this, you can read that too. And then other things that would happen is, like, maybe I would feel like warmth in a certain part of my body, or a symptom, like get like a little tickle in my throat or something like that. So all these things kind of are intended to give you or the experience can give you ideas about how the plant works within your body. So if rage comes in, then you might question whether the herb helps release that, or does it help like dealing with that emotion, or if you're feeling like a bunch of energy in your lungs, is it like a lung herb, you know? And then what you can do is, after you have that information, if you're doing it with other people's, you can discuss what their experience was as well. And then make sure you write down your own experiences so that you remember, because believe it or not, you'll have so many experiences in life, you're not going to remember all of them. And then you can look at, if you don't have friends to talk to about it who are really knowledgeable about those herbs, or you're in isolation or whatever, then you can read books about it. My favorite herbalist is Matthew Wood, but there's so many great herbalists out there. So I thought I might as well just tell you a little baseline meditation activity as I was taught. So you can sit like cross-legged on the floor, and or you can sit in a chair if that's difficult for you. And you'll have your eyes closed, and you'll be focusing on your third eye. And that's a real thing, I know, because I got in a car accident, and I dislocated it. It took me like a year, or it took me a couple of years to get it right back where it was supposed to be, between my eyebrows. It sounds crazy, but I talked to like a neuro-ophthalmologist, and he was like, oh yeah, totally. Anyways, that made me feel so validated, and it was like the last thing I was ever expecting from a medical doctor. Anyways, so you'll focus on your third eye, and you can use a different mantra, but I was taught to use either Om or Ram, and you just breathe in through your nose, and as you're doing that, you would repeat the mantra just one time. So you'd be like, Om, as your breath goes in, your eyes closed, you're focused on your third eye. And then as you exhale out, just through your nose again, slowly, you're just following the breath. So you're just feeling the breath go out of your body. This is really a powerful exercise, and you would do that. Oh, and then at the end of that exhale, you count 1, and then followed by 2, etc. So you can do that, and then if you lose track of the count you're on, you just don't worry about it, and you can start back at 1, or you can start back at 215, or wherever you're at, whatever you last remember. But it's really powerful to do this, and I would set, if you wanted to go the best, you just set a certain amount of time you're going to do, like 10 minutes or an hour, every day, and do it at the same time in the same place. It just helps your body realize, now's the time we're going to do this. We're just doing this. This is our new thing. So it's really helpful. And there have been studies about how meditation impacts the people around you and creates peace not only inside yourself, eventually. It might be frustrating at first, but it does help, but also around you. It creates peace around you. So there was a study of transcendental meditators who went in a big group to Washington, D.C. to meditate for a month during the summer. And by the end of that month, the crime rates in the area were at the same level they were normally at in the winter, which was a significant difference. It was a significantly less crime in the winter than in the summer there. So I know that we all need to get out and do proactive things, but we can also know that as we're doing self-care, we are impacting the world around us. And I have another story that I love to tell, so you're either listening or not. And it's about one time I was coming out of my house, and at the time I had a very, very, very barky chihuahua. And it was evening, and there was a deer coming up the driveway. And as soon as my chihuahua saw the deer, my chihuahua started barking, and just like a chihuahua does. And then the deer froze, just like a deer does. And I decided to just start repeating some mantras in my head, not out loud. I started doing that. My dog's still doing his dog thing, and the deer relaxes and just starts slowly walking along like it was before. It's no longer seemed worried at all about my dog. So the way that I interpreted this was that it's true what some people say about what's inside your head affects those around you. So if you get in a situation where somebody's afraid of you, or somebody's, your personality is and their personality aren't going great, you can try different things. Like, you could try in your head, like, thinking good thoughts, like, I love you, or, like, if that's what you want to express. Or you could think, maybe this will work out, or, maybe this person, maybe we'll get to the end of this conversation and we'll understand each other better, or something like that. Something positive, something low pressure, and just see how it affects your interactions with people. Just an experiment. So yeah, I got into the plant meditations, and that's made me really, really happy to be able to communicate, to listen to the plants, and to share what they have to say with other people. Because I do that through my blends that I make. And I also feel like it's important to talk to the plants, because some plants are much more directable or needing guidance than other plants. Like, for example, Matthew Woods' burdock is an example of that. I also experience, like, CBD. They just need, like, guidance. So, like, I feel like if lately I tried to experiment a bunch with CBD because people wanted me to make blends with it, and at this point I'm not doing that yet, but I might, and now I have more knowledge of the plant. It felt like I could really just be like, okay, now I'm CBD, I'm going to put you with this plant, these other plants, and this is what I want you to do. I want you to work on anxiety, or I want you to work on body pain, or something like that. And it seemed like it really would just fit in very well. So when I make the blends, sometimes I have 2 tea blends that have mostly the same ingredients, but they're doing different things. Mother's Little Helper is good for, like, long-term stress. Artist Dream Tea is good for helping bring more inspired dreams and clear out creative blocks. So they're doing different things, but we're talking to the plants and we're communicating. So when you take an herb, if there's something that you want it to help you with, ask it. Just ask it. And you don't have to say it out loud. You can say it in your head. And you can also say, please teach me. Like, what can you teach me? And you can even say, I'm happy to teach you too. Like, is there anything you want to know about being a human or whatever? So I'm very, very sensitive. So over the years, I've keep meditating, and I have these experiences of, like, connection with people and plants and animals, and I'm talking to the animals and talking to the plants, talking to people. And the other day, I went out for a run while my daughter was taking boxing lessons, and as I was running, I was like, I just want to tune into, like, what's going on in my body. And I looked inside my body, and I said, or what I saw was the energy of a smaller individual boxing. And I checked again, and I was like, you know what? I am feeling my daughter right now. I'm not feeling me. And then I was like, oh, I'm so connected to her. Maybe that's not, like, a great thing. And then I thought about, maybe that's not good for her or me. I don't know. And then I thought about some other people that I love so much and how connected I feel with them, and the intensity of that inside of me. And I was like, worried. I was worried. I'm a perfectionist. But then I remember this level of sensitivity that I have from all these years of meditation and other things too. That's how I can communicate with the herbs, and that's how I can communicate with people when they're sitting with me, or when I'm talking to them over the phone to do herbal consultations. And magical things happen where I don't really understand how I'm picking up what I'm picking up, but then an herb will come in, and an herb that I haven't even thought about using ever in my life, and it'll just be like, hey, what about me? And then I'll look it up just to be, like, sciencey about it or whatever, and it's like the perfect herb from that person, and it works. So I was like, you know what, I'm just, like, not going to worry about how I'm tuned into my daughter or these other people that I love, and I'm just going to be okay with it. And then I remembered something. I remember that The story of the original sin, or the different version from my spiritual path, which is ancient, it's not like a new age thing, it's been going on for a really long time, is that our original sin is imagining that we're separate. And so I thought that was so interesting that you like spend all this time meditating to understand yourself, and then when you do, you realize more and more that you are you are yourself, but you are these other things that you interact with, and people and creatures, and I don't know. Sometimes even like freaking ceiling fan, I can like feel it moving. So it's just how I am. But that's so I wanted to show you this picture that I've been like having in a lot of my videos. This one is from when I used to do photography all the time and as an artist, and I still make art, but this one is when I did a bunch of art about trying to explain to people the meditation experience. But I'm going to show you the fairy godmother picture that I really like because it has an apple in it, and I like how it changes the original sin idea. Okay, so here's the fairy godmother. This is from the fairy card deck. I'll put the information for that in the notes for the video. But I love the deck so much. The art is so awesome, and I feel like it's like really excellent portrayal of the female body. If you're into that, just because I so rarely see like variety in the way that the female body is depicted, so it's great. That's just an aside. Sorry. So I love this picture because thank you, Sissy Cream Cheese, for making this poster for me. But here, instead of like this like image of like the snake and the apple and like how awful Eve is for like taking the apple, we have the fairy godmother herself offering this apple. And that, you know, you can make an apple into anything. You can make it into poison, you can make it into a beautiful medicine. And one way you can figure out what that apple is for you is to sit and meditate with it before you eat it. You know, the other day I found a bunch of morels growing in my garden, and my soil's not great. My soil's got lead in it, and I asked around, and like everybody thought, you know, I think it's gonna be fine for you to get those a few morels. You're not gonna get lead poisoning. And then you know what I did? I sat down and I asked the morels, and they were just like, no, don't do it. So I was like, that was really silly. And maybe they had some other reason, but that's what they said, so I did it. But anyway, so you sit and meditate with the apple. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to look up what people are saying about apple flower essence because I love to read the flower essence medicine descriptions online, metaphysical properties and stuff like that for gemstones to get an idea of the energetics of the medicine before I have had a chance to get close to it. And for the flower essence, it talks of apple flower essence, it talks about releasing poisons from the past, and it talks about renewed like hope in one's inner life. So, and like a sense of innocence. And I was like, oh, maybe that's part of the unicorn magic too, because they just love apples. So we go full circle, and I hope that you like that version of the original sin better. Anyway, I hope that you guys are doing okay, and let me know if you have any questions about any of that.